When you think of the ancient Romans, images of grand architecture, powerful emperors, and disciplined armies probably come to mind. You might even picture philosophers like Marcus Aurelius quietly jotting down Stoic wisdom in his journal. But what if I told you there were Stoic secrets, powerful ideas and principles that most Romans didn't want to talk about? Secrets that challenged their society's foundations and exposed the contradictions in how they lived. Stoicism, for all its wisdom and practicality, wasn't just a personal philosophy for navigating life. It also contained truths that could threaten the social and political norms of ancient Rome. These ideas, while empowering to individuals, often went against the grain of a society built on hierarchy, indulgence, and ambition. Today, we'll uncover the Stoic secrets the Romans didn't want you to know and explore why these teachings were often ignored, suppressed, or misrepresented. Let's start with one of the most powerful and controversial Stoic ideas. True freedom doesn't depend on your status or circumstances. In a society like Rome, where status was everything, where senators held immense power, wealthy elites flaunted their riches, and slaves were treated as property, this idea was revolutionary. Epictetus, a former slave turned Stoic philosopher, famously taught that real freedom comes from mastering your mind, not your external conditions. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Think about how dangerous this idea was in a society that thrived on control and inequality. For the Romans, freedom was a privilege tied to your social rank, not an inherent state of mind. The thought that a slave could be freer than a wealthy senator simply by controlling his emotions and desires was a direct challenge to the social order. No wonder this Stoic secret wasn't popular among the ruling elite. They didn't want people questioning their authority. Another Stoic principle that clashed with Roman values was the idea that material wealth and luxury are meaningless. In Rome, wealth was a status symbol, and the elite went to great lengths to display their riches. Lavish feasts, golden jewelry, and opulent villas were a way of life for the upper class. Yet the Stoics taught that true contentment comes not from external possessions, but from inner virtue. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome and a prominent Stoic philosopher, often criticized the obsession with luxury. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." This message was a direct challenge to the culture of excess that defined Roman life. While some admired Seneca's wisdom, others accused him of hypocrisy, pointing to his own wealth as evidence that even he couldn't escape Rome's materialism. But perhaps the most subversive Stoic secret was this: all humans share the same rational nature, and therefore all are equal in dignity. For the Stoics, this wasn't just a philosophical idea, it was a moral truth. They believed that every person, regardless of their status, gender, or background, possessed the same capacity for reason and virtue. In a society like Rome, which thrived on hierarchy and inequality, this idea was nothing short of revolutionary. Slavery, for example, was an integral part of Roman life. The notion that a slave could be the moral equal of their master wasn't just controversial, it was dangerous. While Stoics like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius embraced this principle, the broader society largely ignored it. Acknowledging this truth would have undermined the entire foundation of Roman social and economic systems. Another Stoic teaching that didn't sit well with Roman society was the idea that fame and public approval are meaningless distractions. The Romans were obsessed with glory, from the military achievements of their generals to the grand monuments they built to immortalize their names. Yet, the Stoics argued that seeking external validation was a trap. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Imagine how unsettling this idea would have been in a society where public recognition was everything. The Romans built their careers, legacies, and reputations on the opinions of others. To suggest that fame was meaningless was to challenge one of the core motivators of Roman life. No wonder this Stoic secret wasn't widely embraced. It struck at the heart of their culture. Stoicism also held another secret that contradicted Roman values. Anger is never a sign of strength. It's a weakness to be overcome. In a society that valued power and dominance, anger was often seen as a tool for asserting control. Roman generals, politicians, and even emperors used displays of rage to intimidate their rivals and rally their followers. But the Stoics saw anger differently. Seneca wrote, "Anger, an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured." The Stoics believed that true strength came from maintaining composure and acting rationally, even in the face of provocation. For the Romans, who often glorified aggression, this idea was countercultural. It challenged the way power was wielded and suggested that self-control was a greater virtue than dominance. One of the most intriguing Stoic secrets was the belief that adversity is not something to avoid, but something to embrace. In a society that prized comfort, luxury, and convenience, this idea was difficult to accept. The Stoics taught that challenges and hardships were opportunities for growth, a chance to develop resilience and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For the Romans, who often sought to insulate themselves from discomfort, this perspective was both inspiring and unsettling. It forced them to confront their own fears and insecurities, to see adversity not as a curse but as a teacher. Yet for many, this Stoic secret was too difficult to live by. It required a level of discipline and reflection that clashed with the indulgent tendencies of Roman society. Finally, one of the most profound Stoic secrets was the idea that life's ultimate purpose is to live in harmony with nature. This wasn't just about the natural world. It was about aligning your actions with reason and virtue, living according to your true nature as a rational being. In a society like Rome, where ambition, greed, and corruption often took precedence, this idea was a quiet rebellion against the status quo. The Stoics believed that living in harmony with nature required rejecting the distractions of power, wealth, and fame, and instead focusing on what truly matters: character, integrity, and the pursuit of wisdom. It was a radical message in a world obsessed with outward success, and it remains a powerful reminder of what's truly important. While these Stoic secrets offered a radical way of thinking, they often clashed with the very fabric of Roman society. To truly understand why these teachings were so subversive, we must examine how deeply ingrained the opposing values were in daily Roman life. The Romans lived in a world dominated by hierarchy, wealth, and the relentless pursuit of personal glory. For them, life wasn't about mastering the self, it was about mastering others. The ambitious Roman elite climbed the social ladder through political alliances, military conquests, and public displays of power. Stoicism, with its emphasis on inner virtue over external achievements, threatened to undermine this system. Take, for example, the Roman obsession with public recognition. Triumphs, extravagant parades celebrating military victories were among the most coveted honors for Roman generals. These events weren't just celebrations, they were carefully staged spectacles designed to glorify the commander's name and solidify his legacy. Yet the Stoics argued that such displays were hollow. Marcus Aurelius, despite being one of the most powerful men in Rome, repeatedly reminded himself that fame was fleeting and that true worth came from living virtuously, not from public adoration. But what about the average Roman citizen? For many, Survival was a daily battle. The chaotic streets of Rome, with their noise, filth, and danger, left little room for philosophical reflection. The Stoic idea of finding contentment within, regardless of external conditions, might have sounded appealing, but it was difficult to practice in a world where basic necessities were a constant struggle. Bread riots, political unrest, and the harsh realities of life in cramped insulae, the multi-story apartment buildings where many Romans lived, often made Stoic calm feel out of reach. Even the Roman justice system, which was supposed to embody fairness and order, often contradicted Stoic ideals. Corruption was rampant, and justice was frequently skewed in favor of the wealthy and powerful. The Stoics believed that true justice required treating everyone with fairness and dignity, but in Rome, the scales of justice were anything but balanced. This disparity highlighted the challenge of applying Stoic principles in a society built on inequality. Religion, too, played a role in suppressing some of Stoicism's most profound teachings. Roman religion was deeply rooted in rituals, sacrifices, and appeasing the gods. It was a public spectacle as much as a private belief system, designed to reinforce the social order and maintain the favor of the divine. The Stoic belief in a rational, ordered cosmos, where the divine was seen as a universal force rather than a pantheon of temperamental gods, was at odds with the traditional Roman approach to spirituality. For the Stoics, living in harmony with nature wasn't about performing elaborate rituals or making sacrifices. It was about aligning your actions with reason and virtue. This perspective stripped away the need for intermediaries like priests or oracles, empowering individuals to take responsibility for their own lives. While this idea was empowering, it also undermined the societal structures that depended on collective religious practices to maintain order. One of the most fascinating Stoic secrets was their view on power. While Roman society glorified conquest and domination, the Stoics believed that true power came from within. Marcus Aurelius famously wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This idea was revolutionary because it shifted the concept of power from something external, like wealth or military might, to something internal. Imagine how threatening this concept was to the Roman elite, whose authority relied on visible demonstrations of power. If the masses embraced the Stoic idea that inner mastery was more important than external control, it could have destabilized the social hierarchy. Why obey a ruler who is no more free than you are, enslaved by his own ambitions and desires? This leads us to one of the greatest paradoxes of Stoicism in Rome: its popularity among the elite. Figures like Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, and even Epictetus had significant influence, but their teachings often challenged the very systems that allowed them to thrive. How could Seneca, a man of immense wealth, criticize luxury? How could Marcus Aurelius, an emperor commanding vast armies, advocate for humility and self-restraint? The answer lies in the duality of Stoicism. While it provided a guide for personal virtue, it didn't demand the complete rejection of society. Instead, it encouraged individuals to navigate their roles in the world with integrity and wisdom. For someone like Marcus Aurelius, this meant balancing his duties as emperor with his commitment to Stoic principles. For Seneca, it meant acknowledging his wealth while striving to live modestly within his means. But even these efforts couldn't bridge the gap between Stoic ideals and Roman reality. The societal structures of Rome were too entrenched, and the philosophy's inward focus made it difficult to inspire collective change. Stoicism wasn't a political movement, it was a personal practice. And while it offered a path to inner freedom, it didn't address the systemic issues that plagued Roman society. This tension between Stoicism and Roman life raises an important question. Were the Romans truly ignoring Stoic teachings, or were they simply unable to reconcile them with their reality? The truth is likely a mix of both. Stoicism demanded a level of self-discipline and reflection that was difficult to maintain in a world driven by ambition and excess. At the same time, its principles challenged the very foundations of Roman society, making it easier for many to dismiss or distort its teachings. And yet, despite these challenges, Stoicism endured. Its secrets about freedom, power, equality, and the pursuit of virtue continued to resonate with those seeking a deeper understanding of life. Even in a society that often ignored its teachings, Stoicism provided a lifeline for individuals striving to live with integrity amidst chaos. Today, these Stoic secrets are more relevant than ever. We too live in a world filled with distractions, inequalities, and pressures to conform. And just like the Romans, we face the challenge of balancing our ideals with the realities of modern life. But the enduring wisdom of Stoicism reminds us that true freedom, strength, and purpose come from within. It challenges us to rise above our circumstances and live according to our highest values, no matter how imperfect the world around us may be. As we've uncovered, the Stoic secrets that the Romans didn't want you to know are not just relics of the past. They are timeless principles that challenge us to think differently about power, freedom, and what it means to live a meaningful life. These teachings, though often at odds with the chaotic and indulgent culture of ancient Rome, hold immense value for us today. One of the most powerful lessons from these Stoic secrets is that true freedom and happiness aren't tied to wealth, status, or external achievements. In a world that constantly tells us to chase more, to acquire, to succeed, to be recognized, Stoicism offers a countercultural perspective. It reminds us that the things we can control, our thoughts, actions, and reactions, are what truly matter. Everything else is secondary, a distraction from the inner peace that comes from living virtuously. The Romans who embraced these teachings, like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, remind us that even in the midst of chaos, it's possible to rise above. Their lives were far from perfect. They faced wars, political intrigue, personal loss, and societal corruption. Yet they used Stoicism as a compass to navigate these challenges, focusing on what they could control and letting go of what they couldn't. Their struggles make their wisdom even more relatable, showing us that Stoicism isn't about perfection, it's about striving. But the fact that many Romans rejected or ignored these teachings also serves as a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that societies driven by excess, inequality, and a thirst for power often collapse under the weight of their own contradictions. Stoicism's emphasis on balance, moderation, and justice offers an antidote to this, but it requires effort and discipline to apply. So, what can we take away from all of this? First, we can embrace the Stoic practice of self-reflection. Take a moment to examine your own life. Are you chasing external validation at the expense of your inner peace? Are you letting anger, fear, or desire control your actions? What small steps can you take today to live more intentionally, focusing on what truly matters? Second, we can challenge the cultural narratives that prioritize wealth, fame, and power over character and integrity. Like the Romans, our society often rewards the wrong things, creating a cycle of stress and dissatisfaction. By adopting a Stoic mindset, we can break free from this cycle and find fulfillment in living according to our values. Finally, we can share these Stoic secrets with others, spreading a message of resilience, wisdom, and hope. In a world that feels increasingly chaotic, these timeless principles are more needed than ever. If you found this exploration of Stoicism and ancient Rome insightful, Consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from these lessons. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into ancient wisdom, philosophy, and history. Together, we can learn from the past, navigate the present, and strive for a better future. Let's take these Stoic secrets to heart and use them to rise above the chaos, just as the great Stoics of Rome once did.